Brandon Medina and Michael Jimenez are the Fantasy Gods.
What is going on? What is going on, San Antonio? Your boy Brandon Medina is in the building with my man Rudy Campos. How are we doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Hey, excited to finally talk fantasy football with you on the airwaves. That's
my goodness.
The boyhood dream.
The boyhood dream, like Shawn Michaels, baby. This is the Fantasy Gods. This is the Fantasy Gods. Thank you guys for joining in. If you can't hear, you can't tell, your boy is away. I have my first fantasy draft of my longtime draft here in Dallas, Texas. Rudy, lots of people were slipping because of some training camp talk, brother.
Yeah, man. You're going to see a lot of people slipping. You see guys, that are going to be rising, but a lot of guys falling. The biggest name that's dropping, and he's an RB1, but it's Jonathan Taylor, man. Is he going to play this year? We have no idea. And even if he does, that crappy Colts team is going to hold him back from so much, man. That's got to be the one guy in everybody's mind.
I drafted the actual running back for the Colts with my last pick, Anthony Richardson, since he's going to be not back to anything. But yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs has a lot of question marks as well. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And one that dropped crazy in my league, I'm talking about going in the 8th, 9th round, Rudy, was DeAndre Swift because of the Kenneth Gainwell traction he's getting up in training camp. And also, we know Philly does not use running backs very much. Specifically one-headed running backs. It's always committed. So Philadelphia is one to look at too. Anything else you saw in training camp or preseason? Finally, we have some football, man.
Yeah, football's back, man. I'm excited. Everybody should be excited. You should be fighting for reality and fantasy. Your guy, you're talking about definitely DeAndre Swift, Philadelphia. I mean, you saw with Miles Sanders how that worked out. Didn't work out pretty good. So I think that's going to be something to watch for. But the biggest overall thing I can get into, Brandon, is going through some of these drafts that I've get and even looking at some stuff is where the running back is devalued in reality football. It's also devalued in fantasy football now. We're seeing the wide receivers just jump off the board. Why? Because like the NBA did, it's a shooters league. It's a scoring league. The quarterback and receivers are going to be massive starting this season. Running backs are devalued in fantasy. You're going to see maybe the guys like Christian McCaffrey go off the board. You're going to have some other guys that are going to start popping up higher that you normally don't see. I'll get into one of them here in a little bit. But concentrate on the wide receivers, and even the tight end position is going to be huge this season for a lot of fantasy owners.
Hey, I got a quick question, man. I want to interject real quick, man. Everybody always says that the running backs are never worth nothing, right?
They were like 10 years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's funny to me how they're one of the first ones that get off the board.
Well, and there's a thing, because you had LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes. You've had a lot of these guys from the past. I mean, if Barry Sanders was still playing, Joe, he probably would be number one, no doubt about it. But these running backs don't have the elusiveness that a Barry Sanders did. They don't have the speed that we saw of a Priest Holmes or LaDainian Tomlinson. Now that value is going down on running backs, because even at the goal line position where a Jerome Bettis was good for you, doesn't mean jack anymore, because you're still passing on goal line downs.
Yeah, Bettis was never built for speed, though. He was built for power. You can be at the goal line.
He was a golden corral running back. He had to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat.
You needed a yard or two to get into the end zone. That's your boy. Battering ram.
A golden corral running back. What an incredible way, Rudy, of bringing that up. I love it. I think you have the Nick Chubbs of the world, the Christian McCaffreys, who will be consistent for you. But then you have the what ifs, the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Alvin Kamaras, the shots you're taking that might pay off, or it could definitely be a little bit too pricey to take. I have a question for you, Rudy. You brought up quarterbacks, you brought up tight ends.
Yeah.
Can you win your league without a top 5 quarterback? Can you do the fall of grace of quarterbacks and wait late in the 9th round, 8th round, 10th round, and take a shot on a Deshaun Watson, of Kirk Cousins, of Daniel Jones, someone like that? And can you realistically win your league if you get value in the skill position?
100%. That is a possibility. Last season, I was able to get Jared Goff, and you saw the type of season that he had last year. He actually helped me get to the finals. I didn't win, which kind of sucks, but you know what? I got to let other people win from time to time. So I don't mind losing every now and then, but you can definitely win. One guy that you've got to circle, Brandon, he's got an ADP right now, I think of about, I got it right here. He's around round 11, ADP 136. Russell Wilson is falling because of last season. Yep. If you can get Russell Wilson in that 10, 11 round where he's right now projected, you're talking about Sean Payton as the head coach now. He's got a 3-headed receiving core. He's got 2 tight ends that are going to be beneficial. Not only that, he has a run game. He doesn't have an inexperienced coach, so Russell Wilson's going to be a guy going late that you may want to be able to get earlier in the 8th or 9th round, because he's going to be a lot better than last season.
No, yeah, I agree. I think Russell Wilson, you're talking about a quarterback that was pretty consistently a top 10 quarterback, has an awful season in Denver, but not only his fault, right? Javonte Williams tears his knee to shreds. Cortland Sutton looked off and injured. There's a lot of injuries going through. Tim Patrick's injured going into the season as well. So, there's so many injuries surrounding that core that I think Russell Wilson has taken that ADP fall. But I agree with you. If there's a quarterback to take a shot on late and you're going to play the no quarterback strategy, go ahead. Now, one thing I saw on my draft personally yesterday was, of course, Travis Kelce is still a first-round pick. Absolutely makes sense. Yeah. Mark Andrews goes after. I saw Dallas Goedert go 3rd instead of T.J. Hockenson and stuff like that. But I think once you go past Kelce and Andrews, there's an obvious elite drop-off. With those tight end positions and QB positions, does the tight end position give you that much of an edge over your opponents week to week if you have Kelce and Andrews, Campos?
You know what? That's a great question. And I'm going to say right now, where you see the top 2 guys in Andrews and Kelce, it's a huge drop off, but not so much like off of a cliff. We're talking about a 3-story building drop off where it's going to hurt you a little bit, but it's not going to kill you. You still got Hockenson out there from Minnesota. Kirk Cousins would love to use Hockenson, and we saw him do it last year. Don't forget about George Kittle. Kittle had an off year last year, but again, You've got Brock Purdy coming in. You've got Trey Lance. This tight end is a security blanket. So George Kittle is going to be a security blanket for some of these guys coming in. One guy you got, actually 2 guys. One of them is Kyle Pitts, my boy in Atlanta. Kyle Pitts, he's been horrible his first few seasons in the league, but you've got a rookie basically coming in Ritter. You got a young guy. He's going to need that security blanket. Outside of Drake London and Bijan, who's going to be more of a receiving back than he's going to be an actual running back, you're going to see a lot more, I believe, of Kyle Pitts. But one guy circled this guy down because he's going way, way low. I believe his average is around round 12, and that's Chigozium Okonkwo. I can't say his name, but out of Tennessee. Yes. I love the guys you can't pronounce because they're the guys that are going to actually win you leagues and stuff. So if y'all can out there spell it without even Googling it, I'll give you $100, whatever. But this guy can win you some games. And why? Because he's got 2 young quarterbacks, Malik Willis. He's got Will Levis, who, again, he's like an Anthony Richardson. He's kind of terrible for me. I'm not really buying on the Will Levis thing. But Ryan Tannehill, we saw what he would do with a guy like Jonnu Smith. He's going to have some receivers there. Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins is going to open up that tight end position for the Tennessee Titans. There's a lot of great value. Mike Gesicki in New England, We saw what Bill Belichick does with tight ends in New England, and Gesicki is a pass catching happy tight end. So you still got value there. You just got to find the right one and the right fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a name that we should mention that I think doesn't get mentioned enough, who I've won a championship with, and you and me, Rudy, are in a keeper league that we'll talk about a little later. But I went to the championship with this exact tight end just because I wasn't getting the blow-up weeks, but I was getting the consistent 10 to 12-point weeks.
Yeah.
And that's my man Tyler Higbee over at the Rams, man, just getting disrespected every year and still finishes like top 8 every single year because of the drop-off in tight ends. And I think if you're looking for a guy that's going to give you the quick 9 to 13 points, Tyler Higbee's there. Anything more, you're looking for a George Kittle, a Mark Andrews, and Travis Kelce. Those are league winners. These are league competitors. Is kind of the version we're talking about of the Kelce. I mean, the Higbees, the Okonkwo's, all that stuff. And so I love that. Anybody, Rudy, before we mention some of our sponsors, anybody that you saw in some of the preseason games that you were happy to see get some run or excited to see moving forward just to get some reps in?
You know, one guy that's going to be on my list to watch, and I mean, there's a couple more, but I'll throw him out there, is Khalil Herbert, Chicago Bears. I mean,
dude, 56-yard touchdown run?
56-yard touchdown run. No more David Montgomery. So God bless Khalil Herbert. He's RB1 in Chicago, but he's got an RPO quarterback, and that benefits him. You saw he can catch out of the backfield. He can actually be a decent running back. Is he going to win you a league? You know what? He's that type of guy where he's a low draft pick for you, but he can win you that league. He is that guy that's going to be an RB2 on your team, week-to-week starter. There's really nothing behind him that I'm worried about as far as, you know, someone coming in and taking his spot. This is Khalil Herbert's team when it comes to running backs. What I saw out of him yesterday was almost on the verge of being top 10. Running back. So by the end of the season, we may see him jump up in the top 10 as both a reception and a running back, in general.
Yeah, and of course, this is the Fantasy Gods, Rudy Campos, with the first hot take of the day, possible top 10, Khalil Herbert. But I think 56-yard touchdowns, man, they don't happen often. And also, this was not a running touchdown, people. He caught this pass and took it for 56 yards. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a player that maybe could be a PPR sneaky squeeze in there. So I definitely like that as well. Listen, man, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but God, I love seeing Deuce Vaughn get some work. It's hilarious to watch on film. But a player I am looking at to draft that is a little bit of a homer pick because I'm a Vikings fan, but Jordan Addison looked really clean with his route running, looked really clean moving out of the backfoot, just kind of getting up and really being physical with corners and defensive backs. And so I liked that. But there was a lot to look at. I mean, the Cowboys game, I was surprised to see Trevor Lawrence and then get the ones in there.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears, DJ Moore got a touchdown off the first series. So, I mean, DJ Moore, somebody that's slipping in drafts, who's always, for some reason or another, a top 25 wide receiver. So definitely a lot of names we'll be talking about. But before we do, sir, let's hit up our sponsors real quick. We got Mudslingers. Mudslingers is a sponsor over here at the Fantasy Gods. Mudslingers is your favorite local drive-through coffee shop in San Antonio. Why would you go anywhere else, gentlemen? I mean, you have the mini donuts that Michael Jimenez is in a chokehold on because of. And then you have, of course, the caramel macchiatos, the cinnamon bun avalanche. This is your drive-through coffee spot here in San Antonio. Mudslingers, we love them, support them. Absolutely go check them out. We also got Bear County Social Apparel. I know my man Rudy Campos and myself, die-hard Spurs fans.
Oh, yeah.
Die-hard. Viva la raza Spurs fans. You know what I'm saying? And I think Bear County Social Apparel has everything you need for all San Antonio sports, whether you're a Spurs fan, whether you're a UTSA Roadrunner fan, or even if you're still looking for the Brahmas to be something in San Antonio, they still got some stuff there with the Brahmas. So Bear County Social Apparel is your number one-stop shop for all things San Antonio, Texas. And, of course, our people at Mad Pecker Brewing Company, man, let me tell you about them. They got the IPAs, the Ales, the sours, the lagers, and more. Oh, my. They have everything from fried cheese bites to the fried mushrooms, pretzels. Great food, great drinks, and immaculate vibes. Matt Pecker Brewing is our title sponsor here at the Fantasy Gods, and we're looking to do a live fantasy draft that we'll be talking about a little bit more. I'll get with Joe, I'll get with Rudy, I'll get with Mike. We'll figure things out a little bit, but we're looking to do that August 27th possibly. If you're interested, hit me up. My Twitter is here on the top at Big Poppy Brandon M. Make sure you hit up our boys, Rudy Campos at Sweep the League, and of course, Joe Garcia at Two Shots Podcast. Hit us up, see if you're interested in our league. We'll be doing a fantasy football league, hopefully with the listeners, to promote the Fantasy Gods as well as see if you can beat the Gods. And since Rudy is here, he is now part of the Gods of Fantasy. And I know he's a God of Fantasy because, Rudy, you've been in my keeper league for now going on about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the challenges of a keeper league versus a standard league.
You know, the challenges of keeper is not only, okay, this guy's RB1, this guy's wide receiver 1. I got both of them on my team. Who do I keep? Yeah, it's beyond that because you've got to see what goes on off the field with the, you know, all the contract situations, injuries, all that stuff. Honestly, Brandon, I'm going to say this: stay at homies is the league. Shout out to you guys out there. We've been together for a while, but your league is the biggest kick in the balls that I have when it comes to fantasy football because I've got to go. You're saying I can only keep 3 guys and I've got ADPs and stuff. When I've got guys like Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, AJ Brown, Josh Jacobs, Justin Herbert, you know, Kenneth Walker, I'm like, God, can I at least keep like 6 of these guys, please? I mean, you're not letting me. These are the challenges you have. And I'm not saying that when you're able to draft good teams like Brandon and I are, this is the part where it's like, okay, I've got to sit and think what's going to benefit me here. I'm going to use my team as an example because we got to turn in our picks here for you for this league. But the Jonathan Taylor thing and the Josh Jacobs thing, we talked about that earlier. We don't know what's going to happen. So for me, Cooper Kupp's got an ADP of 1. I'm going to keep Cooper Kupp. I dropped him last year and I was lucky to get him back again. I accidentally dropped him, if you remember that. I accidentally dropped him. I'm going to keep Justin Herbert. I think he's got an ADP of around round 4. So I'm good right there. What I'm going to do is I'm either going to take Kenneth Walker or AJ Brown, knowing that it's a quarterback wide receiver friendly league. AJ Brown's got an ADP of 2 right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go keeping Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, and Justin Herbert in that league, leaving me with a 3rd round pick and then coming back to the 5th on the rest of the draft. But it's very tough in keeper leagues. Keeper leagues are hard.
No, it really is. I know the way our league goes is we kind of reward you for being a drafter as a manager, right? And so what happens is when you draft, you get to keep 1 player from that draft. From the first year, we would draft a normal draft, and then you keep 3 of them, and you would be charged just where you drafted them. That's it. Once we hit year 2, it changes because the keepers that you chose now get charged with their current ADP. And so you start making those tough decisions. But at one point, you and I had some crazy keepers. You had Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, and then you had Josh Jacobs, which was ridiculous, and you were murdering people. And then I had at one point the absolute dynamite duo of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson because I took both on their rookie seasons. So I mean, it's a fun time, but man, those decisions come quick. And what happens is off the bat, everybody you're looking at in standard leagues, they're gone. Like you're now drafting past the Nick Chubbs, past the Devontae Adams, past all those players, and you're now able to look at a little bit more of those big swings and misses. But I feel like in a keeper league, man, you're allowed to take more shots than a standard league just because you're looking for high volume and potential to hopefully keep them for the following season.
Yeah, you've got to do your homework when it comes to keeper leagues and when it comes to like dynasty leagues where I'm also in dynasty where we draft rookies at the end of the year and stuff. You've got to do your homework. And that's the part. This is what I've always said. If you want to be a fantasy champion, a fantasy god, fantasy immortal, you've got to put the work in. You got to be a GM, man, and you've got to make sure you do your homework on these rookies coming in, on these second-year guys, these RB2s and everything like that. You've got to do your homework. It's so tough in a keeper league because, I mean, I was able to get Isaiah Pacheco last year, and I basically drafted him late in our draft. And I was like, you know what? He's going to pan out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not going to be that guy. Pacheco came at the end of the year. I still have him on the roster. Would I keep him? Probably not this year. But you got to go deeper, man. Your boys, the Vikings, Alexander Mattison. I'm going to throw a guy out here that people need to look at. And if you've got late round picks, I'm going to do it. Go get a Ty Chandler. This guy is going to be Minnesota gold if Mattison gets hurt. And you know what? It happens. Mattison does get hurt from time to time. He does have some injury-riddled seasons. Tyler Chandler is that one guy, but you're right. Do your homework. Get balls deep in this stuff. It doesn't take very long. Exactly. It doesn't take very long to do the homework, Brandon. That's the best advice I can give people when it comes to keeper and dynasty leagues. Just put the work in.
Absolutely, Rudy. And you know what? People have some drafts coming up this week before we even have the next show. And so with that, I want to make sure we hit on this, man.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit, brother. Give me 3 players that are some of your favorite sleepers that you're targeting in these drafts as you're moving into draft season.
Wow. Okay. So one of them we mentioned earlier is definitely Russell Wilson. And he's not really so much a sleeper based off of what he's done before Denver, but what he did last season. You've got guys like Marvin Mims, Jerry Jeudy. These guys are going to take that next step with Russell Wilson this coming season. He's actually one guy that I'm really, really looking at. And I'm kind of like on the edge of where do you want to take him? I want to take him as high as possibly 8, 9, 8th round, 9th round, but I've seen him go lower than, like in 10, 11, 12. So it just depends where he goes. Another vet coming back from a very off season, Calvin Ridley. You're talking about a Jaguars offense that is getting going. It's getting going now. You thought it was good last year. Calvin Ridley is going to open up that field for Trevor Lawrence, and that's going to make this Jags offense super, super good. They're my favorites to win the division. I actually have them kind of maybe coming out of the AFC, possibly. They could scare some teams there. But yes, Calvin Ridley is going to be a difference maker. I know you got guys too, but I want to give you a couple of them that are going to be starting this year. You got to look at Jordan Love. Jordan Love is getting a good rapport with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. Still have Aaron Jones there. So I think Jordan Love is a lot better quarterback than people give him credit for. You're going to see him elevate his game a little bit more this year. If you're going to get Kenneth Walker, the junior, you're going to go get Zach Carbonet out of UCLA. This guy is going to be a bruiser when it comes to the league. He's going to be a guy you want to handcuff Walker with. Last but not least, Sam Laporta out of Detroit. We saw what they did. We saw what they did with TJ Hawkinson. And Jared Goff is still there. So we saw what Detroit does with the tight end. Laporta is going to be a big part of this offense. That's another late guy you want to get, Sam Laporta out of Detroit.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. So I'm going to give a few high priority sleepers. Those are going to be in your top 6, top 5 rounds. I think somebody getting disrespected, brother, Najee Harris. What are we doing? Najee Harris has fallen into round 3, if not round 4. We have a better offensive line, a second-year quarterback, and we know this guy gets all of the work. He is the workhorse back. He is the Derrick Henry-esque as far as touches. He's going to be getting a lot of touches out of the backfield. So I love Najee. He finished, I think, 14th, but I think he missed a few games.
Yeah.
I don't see why you couldn't be a top 10 running back and you're getting him in the 3rd or 4th round if you're flipping in home leagues. So I love that. And another player I thought is getting disrespected, a little bit of ageism, Rudy, is my boy Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen massively discounted this year versus previous years, going in the 3rd or 4th again. Yeah. And you look at Keenan Allen, missed a lot of games, but only had one game, and I think 10 that he played or 8 that he played, one game under 10 points. He had everything from 12 to 20s to almost 30 points. This guy is the number 1 in a high volume Chargers passing offense. You don't want to miss out on that. And someone that I actually love late is Khalil Herbert, we talked about. And then you mentioned a little bit Romeo Doubs. I actually really love this year. Romeo Doubs is somebody that I'm a huge fan of simply for the fact that we don't really know who the number 1's going to be for Jordan Love yet.
Yeah.
So you can have the priority value of Christian Watson and draft him high, and he still might not be that dude in that offense. He still might be wide receiver 2. Romeo Doubs caught a touchdown in the preseason, has been looking great in camp, getting a lot of love in camp with Jordan Love. If you follow anybody from the Sleeper app or anybody from a lot of your favorite analysts on Twitter, even last year in camp when he was going through the motions, Jordan Love seemed to really favor him. And so Romeo Doubs, you can get him massively late in the double-digit rounds. So somebody I'm targeting there is Romeo Doubs. And then last but not least, brother, listen, running backs. We always talk about it. Somebody I would be looking at that I think is a sleeper for most, and I think he's not even a sleeper. He's already awake. Nobody's quiet about him. Jahmyr Gibbs, brother. Jahmyr Gibbs is somebody that I think you need to be targeting. If you like Bijan, you should also look at Jahmyr Gibbs. But if you draft Jahmyr Gibbs or you miss out on him, don't worry. I think David Montgomery is still going to get some work. Oh, yeah. I think we might see a very Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram-esque running back offense where maybe both of these guys could be running back 2s.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. I would honestly, don't kill me, Falcon fans. I'm a Falcon over here, but I take Jahmyr over Bijan a little bit more just because of the offense of the way it's set. Amon St. Brown and like I said, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff is a lot more experienced. So I expect Gibbs to be a little bit better than Bijan. My problem is these guys are not running back material and I don't know if they will be. They're not going to get you the yards on the ground when it comes to rushes. So you're not going to see him break off, these 60-yard runs for touchdowns. It's going to be a lot in the passing game. And that's where I feel like, okay, these guys are valuable, but if I've got a guy like a Ramondre Stevenson, where I know I'm getting both the rushing yards and the receiving yards and the receptions, I might favor him a little bit more. I might favor Tony Pollard a little bit more than these guys. Right now, Bijan is drafted like number 3, I think, when it comes to running backs. He's the 3rd running back off the board. I think that's still way too high for Bijan Robinson. I'm saying right now, don't buy the hype. I'm a Falcon fan, and I love the hype, but it's like you don't want to buy that hype right away without seeing him play and seeing what they're going to do with him. That's the problem with Bijan Robinson for me.
Okay, fair enough. And you just pissed off a lot of UT fans, a lot of Falcons fans.
I'm sorry.
I think I can hear you getting kicked off of the Falcons group chat as we speak. But another guy I love, two wide receivers. We talk about wide receiver heavy drafts. DK Metcalf in round 3 seems like a huge value versus previous years.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf finished, I think, wide receiver 15 or 16 in PPR. Somebody that can definitely take that next level. Geno Smith looked incredible last year, so hopefully they all take that next level. And then again, somebody who's super, super duper discounted, had some injuries last season, but overall, I don't think played very awful for where he's being drafted. Is Hollywood Brown, man. Marquise Brown still the only show in town in Arizona right now. Kyler Murray talking about possibly coming back week 1, no chance. But Kyler will be back, let's say, for 10 games this season, most likely. He probably will miss a few. But out of those games, he's a Hollywood Brown's one of those guys you can kind of draft and kind of leave on the bench, see what he can do, see what he can produce. But he's the clear wide receiver number 1, and he'd probably be your wide receiver 3 or 4 in the draft, probably 4. So he's somebody you're not going to be pushing to start right out the gate unless you're in that 3 wide receiver league template. So with that, Rudy, I want to talk to you a little bit, brother, about what do you think are kind of the big mistakes people make in drafts for new people drafting in leagues, new people drafting and just your standard PPR leagues or half PPR, just your homegrown leagues. What are some mistakes that early and new fantasy managers make in drafts? So we'll kind of bounce back a little bit.
So the biggest mistake I see, and it's an overall mistake that I see a lot of people making, is they don't read the rules and they don't read the scoring. Scoring is massive, and that's the number one thing. Don't go looking who the Christian McCaffrey. Don't go looking who you're going to pick number 1. Don't go buy those dumb magazines that tell you, how to draft and all that. You want to learn how to draft? Listen to us, because we're going to tell you how to draft. But the biggest thing you need to realize is you've got to look at scoring. You have some leagues that'll give you 4 points for a touchdown pass by the quarterback. Some leagues that give you 6. Some leagues are half point for a catch for a reception. Some leagues are a full point. You got to get 25 yards for a point. Sometimes it's like 20 yards for a point. You've got to look at the scoring. If your league is basically giving you 6 points across the board when it comes to quarterback play, everything like that, that kind of makes it a little bit more, because now you can go, okay, you know what? I'm drafting late in the first round, middle of the first round. Do I need to reach for a running back? Not necessarily. I can go Patrick Mahomes in the first round. Why? Because I'm getting 6 points for every touchdown he throws, and we know he's going to throw between 3 to 5 a game. So he becomes more valuable. If he's only getting 4 points, Mahomes drops to like maybe the 3rd round, possibly late second, early 3rd round. Then you go receiver. Okay, what is the receivers paying me? The receivers giving me 1 point of reception, 1 point for 10 yards for at least 10 yards. Then you go Justin Jefferson, you go Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is a reception magnet. He's going to get you a whole lot of receptions. That's where the running back play is a little bit devalued. That's the reason why I say guys like Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, those are going to be your main guys coming off the board. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry kind of comes down a little bit for me because Nick Chubb is also a pass-catching running back. But the biggest thing, like I said, with the guys that are drafting now, guys, girls out there, you've got to look at the scoring. Scoring is the number one thing, in my opinion, that you have to look for first. I've got others, but I know Brandon is salivating right now to get on some of this stuff.
My God. Dude, listen, for me, I love what you said. It's the number 1 rule in fantasy. Know how your league is scored. And then for me, the number 2 rule right after, if I'm writing, my top 10 rules, this is number 2. I would say don't rely on ADP, but let ADP fall for you.
Yeah.
If you're a Cowboys fan, you don't need to draft Dak Prescott in the 3rd round. He's going in the 9th. Let it fall. You know what I mean? If you're a Vikings fan, you don't need to draft Alexander Madison in the 2nd round. He's going to fall. So my thing is, you don't have to necessarily follow ADP. If you want your guy and you're at pick 1 or 10 and you know there's going to be 20 picks in between you, yeah, go get your guy. But overall, there's no reason to pull the trigger if you're going, especially online on a regular league and you're drafting on ESPN, NFL, Yahoo, whatever.
Yeah.
Those all have ADP functions in there that a lot of your fellow drafters are going to be looking at to kind of guide their draft. And so if they're looking at the top of that page and Dak Prescott's nowhere to be there, you don't need to be drafting Dak Prescott. If you're in your home leagues offline where people kind of bring their stuff to understand what's going on, and they bring notes and they bring different things, again, let the draft fall to you. Don't pull the trigger too early. You don't want to be the one holding the grenade when it goes off and you get killed in fantasy because you went too crazy on a player that you love. There's a reason we have ADP. There's a reason these sites have an average draft projection for everybody. Make sure you follow that. Don't live by it, but definitely let it fall for you and let it work with you. Because if you pull too early, you're missing out on some incredible value in a lot of these top 10 rounds. So I don't want people, taking their boy. I had Patrick Mahomes go number 8 in my league here. That was offline. And I was like, what's going on? And my buddy ended up with like awful running backs because he couldn't get back to that value that he lost out on. Now he has Patrick Mahomes, who's going to be a week winner for sure. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, you need a balanced out team, and that's all about production value throughout the rounds.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, you got to balance your team out. And I get it. I get people that are, it sucks because I get text messages from people when they're drafting, like, I'm in the 5th round and who do I get? And this is my team. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to do work here. What the hell are you messing with me for? I don't really care about that. But no, if y'all text me, I don't care. Message me, whatever, I'll answer. But you're right, man. It's the value part. You see a lot of Cowboy fans. You know what? Oh my God, Deuce Vaughn had a great preseason. I gotta grab him. You know what? I'm in the 5th round. He's still on the board. Holy cow! You give me Deuce Vaughn. You see that all the time, and it's like, hold on, bro. Tony Pollard still won. Then you got to go through the other guys. You got to go, you got to go to Brandon Cooks. You got to go to CeeDee Lamb. You got all these other guys that are going to get fed before a Deuce Vaughn. He's going to continue to drop. Unless you're in a beginner's league where these guys are just taking, the entire roster. You know what? Give me Pollard. Give me Dak. Give me CD. Give me Deuce Vaughn. You know what? Give me Brandon Cooks. And they've drafted the entire Cowboy offense, and you're like,
get out of that league.
Exactly.
Get out of that league.
Those leagues are bad for you. But you're right. It's ADP. ADP is it's a suggestion. It's just, this is where we're seeing, and it's, what? It's not even suggestion, Brandon. This is where in 1,000 mock drafts, this is where this guy's going. That's it. We're not telling you he's going to be good here. We're not telling you he's the best. This is where he's going. That's ADP. You have to draft based off of what you know. And if you don't know a whole lot, ask. There's a lot of guys out there that are willing to help you. And like I said, if you're in my league, I'll help you. I'll help you get second. I'm not going to help you get first. I'll help you get second. Brandon, I try to do that with Brandon all the time.
Okay, so let's go ahead and pause here for a quick second and go ahead and give some shout outs to our sponsors.
Absolutely, man. Let's talk. We're talking about value. There's no better value than good old Mudslinger's coffee, baby. Listen, if you're here in the morning and you're feeling a little tired, feeling a little hungover like myself and Rudy, you need to go out there and get yourself some Mudslinger's coffee. Again, the mini donuts, incredible. Caramel macchiatos, incredible. I mean, look at the picture. I'm salivating over here. I know Joe Garcia, myself, and Rudy will be headed to Mudslingers right after. We're big fans. So check out Mudslingers. They are going to be a sponsor for the Fantasy Gods moving forward. We really appreciate them. We love them. Go show them some love. And they have one of the best Twitter accounts on Twitter, man. They're hilarious. So definitely go give them a follow on Twitter. And also Bear County Social Apparel, our boy. Do you need Wimby merch? Do you need Roadrunner merch? Rudy Campos, you better have a Wimby shirt already ready to go for the season, brother. And if you don't,
I'm working on it.
Bear County Social Apparel is where he's going for that Wimby shirt, man. Wimby de Guadalupe, you got to get everything. Of course, it's the best shirt on Twitter, on everywhere, all sites. Go check it out. Bear County Social Apparel, another wonderful follow on Twitter, and even better people, man. I have the Paisley shorts I wore. Joe Garcia still gives me crap about it to this day because they were very bright and vibrant. But I definitely love rocking all of Bear County Social Apparel stuff. Again, the best apparel company for all San Antonio athletics. And then we have Matt Pecker Brewing. Rudy, I already need a drink, brother. It's already past 11 a.m. in Texas. That means it's open time for drinking season on a Sunday. Matt Pecker Brewing Company is open and is one of the sponsors here for the Fantasy Gods. Again, we're looking to do a live fantasy draft there at Matt Pecker Brewing. If you're interested, hit us up on Twitter. You can follow me at Big Poppy Brennan, and you can follow Rudy Campos at Sweep the League, and of course Joe Garcia, the best producer in the business at Two Shots Podcast. Matt Pecker Brewing is your spot for all things great in food, in drinks, in culture, and the best vibes in the city. We love Matt Pecker for sponsoring, and we will definitely be there. Come have a drink with us soon. We'll plan out a time for everybody to come have a drink and enjoy some fun and fantasy football talk with us there at Matt Pecker Brewing. So, Rudy, talk to me a little bit, brother. You and I are in a keeper league. What do you think? How do we challenge each other, Rudy? How do you think two people who are so invested in – when I started this league, the first call was, Rudy, I'm starting a keeper league, brother. What do you think? Do you want it? And you were like, absolutely. How many leagues are you in? And what's the challenge in kind of keeping those leagues all together, brother?
You know, thank God my wife's on the road, so she's probably not listening. She's coming back home because then she'd be mad. But at one point,
just tuned in.
Thanks for that. I just texted her too. I was like, don't tune in. So for the couple of years back, I was actually league-wise, I think the minimum I was in was like 18, 19 leagues across the board. So trying to keep up with that many leagues is bad. I'm actually down to, I think, 12. So I'm good now. And you shake your head, but that's just me. I love fantasy football, man. So I got to do that. But
you need an intervention.
I really do. I think we need to go after the show. We need to have the intervention here, you know, the off camera type stuff. But when it comes to you and I to challenge each other, I'm no disrespect, man. I like to have fun. I like to talk shit with everybody else. But I think if you and I drafted blindfolded, maybe that would be, you know, good for both of us to try to see what the hell we would pick somewhere. You know, here I am staring at, oh God, I drafted Malik Cunningham. He's not even going to play this year probably. But well, I'll try to make it work with him. No, man. But the league, you know, the league that you and I are in, I love the competition of it. It seems like a lot of the teams seem to be balanced, especially after the draft. I've seen how you draft, and there's been times where you're like, oh, you took my guy, and I'll tell you, hey, you took my guy. We were thinking the same thing. That's the good thing about playing with people that know fantasy football is you feel like, you know what, do I have to reach for this guy because I know Brandon's going to take him? Or can I wait another round coming back and I'll take him here? That's the whole part about fantasy football that I love a lot. And playing in your league, it's no different. I'm in a lot of challenging leagues, and you know, I've seen leagues where, like I said, there's a gimmick league where you draft the entire team and that's it. There's leagues where there's taxi leagues, like taxi rosters, veteran rosters, practice squad rosters. So you're drafting guys to keep on there, and you can bring them up, bring them down, do whatever. So fantasy football is great all around. I think in our league, what I think with you and I, it's a good thing going. I'm excited to be in another year with you guys. It's going to be fun overall. And you know what? It's going to be even better if y'all guys just let me win.
That's what it is. Let them win. That's how it goes. I know what I love, dude, is talking fantasy football. It's almost like it's the best icebreaker in public. You can meet somebody, you're talking to somebody. Everybody plays fantasy football, or at least knows somebody who plays fantasy football. Yeah. And the best parts of it is the shit talking. You got to have friends who like to get into it, who like to have that competitive nature. You got to be talking trash where even if you know that they made a good pick, you got to be like, dude, what an awful pick, trash. Like, can't believe you took that guy. It's all mind games in fantasy football. And I think it's no different in our league. But I will say, doing a fantasy football show really hurts the options for fantasy football because everybody snipes you. Everybody knows who they want. Yeah. Joe Garcia, our producer, was there last week when me and Mike were talking about how much I love Jordan Addison falling and how much I was looking to target Jahmyr Gibbs. I was the number 3 pick in my draft, and those guys were no chance in hell making it back. And with both picks, all of my friends were like, you mentioned it, we knew it, we took it, we knew you were going to. And so, I mean, you can't keep many secrets close to the cuff doing the show, but we appreciate the competition. And if you're in a league where it doesn't feel competitive, feel free to kind of explore options. Don't just stay in a league where you think, don't just stay in a league where you're not happy or there's not much movement on the waiver wires or trades going on, especially in leagues. I can't stand it. You see it every year where people don't move out of bye weeks and leave players there to just be there. Yeah. That's not a fun league. You want a league that's very competitive and keeps the thing going. It doesn't take a lot of time to change a roster or to make a move. It literally is a very easy, quick process after the draft. Or do a best ball league. Let's talk a little bit, Rudy, about different league options. A best ball league is perfect for people who don't want to look at the roster, don't have time to change their rosters. All you do is draft, and the actual site will give you the best possibilities of scoring from your quarterbacks all the way down to your kickers and defenses. And you don't have to move anybody. It's just the people who had the best game that week get started in your league. So I think that's a huge option for people who don't have the time for fantasy football per se.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options out there. We mentioned a couple more, like Brandon said, best ball. You've got dynasty. You've got basically like a pick'em league where you do, like I said, you draft an entire roster. You've got, so many. You got basic leagues. Now, one of them that I actually joined last year that I'm doing again is the daily redraft league. So
wow.
every Thursday morning, we're redrafting a roster. Everybody's in the pool. So we go through I think it's only 13 picks. So we're redrafting every Thursday morning. We get online, we redraft, and that's that. That's kind of a league where, okay, you gotta go by ADP, well, not ADP, but you got to go by the draft value for that week. So if you've got, Joe Burrow going against, the number one defense in the league, are you going to really take him? Well, probably not. You can always change it instead of having him, year after year. Week after week, but not only that, the bye week, I want to get back into the bye week with you real quick, because the thing with bye week is this. Another thing for fantasy football players that are new to the league or even just starting, don't allow a bye week to screw your draft. It's 1 week. I had a team where I made the playoffs. I got to the title game. I lost the title game, but I had like 9 guys on bye when it came to that league. So my roster was like maybe like 5 guys active, 4 guys, whatever active. I didn't care. I knew I was going to lose that league, that week, but I wasn't going to lose the league. I drafted the best players available, the ones that I knew would fit with my roster, that were going to give me the best chance of winning. And I never go by bye weeks. So in your league, if I so happen to have every single player on bye in week 11, who gives a crap? I don't. It's just 1 week. It doesn't bother me. So I see a lot of people looking, well, Jesus, I have this guy on bye and this guy on bye. I need to make sure I don't get another running back on bye, because then I won't have anybody. Who cares about that? Just draft your team. Worry about the buys later.
Yeah, if your team is strong enough, that bye week will not affect you.
No,
that's exactly how it goes. So that's a great rule of thumb for new players too. I agree. Another league that I'm doing last year, that I'm doing this year, I started it last year, was that vampire league I was talking about, Rudy. So that one's wild. So it's a 12-team league on the Sleeper app. The 12th person, the last pick, doesn't get to draft. It's straight up just free agents.
Yeah.
And as the week goes by, they get the best free agents available. So they get a whole, I think, day or 2 days before anybody to get free agents off the waiver wire. And then as they beat players, which I actually happened to lose to the vampire later on in the year as he started gaining players, whenever you lose, they get to get your best players. So basically they would trade their awful running back for your Austin Eckler or your Derrick Henry. And then as they accumulate these players, they become super, super strong. And if they win what's called the blood bank, which is extra money the players put in there in case the vampire wins the league. And I think right now it's up to like $800. So whoever wins in that vampire league, if the vampire wins, is going to be making a pretty penny. But definitely crazy options to talk about. I know. What's kind of the craziest one you've been involved in, Rudy?
Oh, man. And again, this
18 leagues are not standard leagues.
No, you figure the average price of a league is $50, so just do the math on that. A couple of leagues I don't have to pay till the end, so that's a good thing. I kind of spread it out like payments.
The layaway league.
I get 20. Yeah, I get 12 months interest free on this kind of stuff, so I make the payments that way. It's like I got it up in 12, but there's 2 leagues. One league that I've been in, and it's actually 5 of us that are owners in the league because it's a $500 buy-in. And we've actually won it, I think, twice. Those are the leagues where you are technically, like me and 4 other guys, we're talking amongst ourselves, and we argue a lot because it's like, well, we need to draft this guy. I'm like, no, you're dumb. We need to draft this guy. No, this guy needs to go. Those are the kind of leagues where I'm like, okay, those big money leagues is one league that I love to do because it makes you think that much more. But I guess another league that I kind of like is I like what it's called a full GM league. And basically you've got your team, you've got injured reserve spots, you got 5 injured reserve spots, you got 5 taxi / practice squad roster spots. Then you have 4 rookie spots. So you can draft and stash. Basically, we call it the international spot. So you're drafting and stashing these rookies. You can only have them stashed for I think 2 seasons, and that's it. So you're talking what, 4 or 5? You're almost like 35 players roughly. So
Goodness.
But once once you draft that first year, then you're just drafting rookies. Is all it is after that. So you go like 5 rounds worth of rookies, and I mean these rosters are big. I love that. Why? Because it puts you in that GM position. You've got to really know what you're doing. These guys are veteran guys in fantasy football. They've been doing it for years. I've been doing it with them for years. I've got guys on my taxi squad. I've got guys on my practice squad, injured reserve spot, all that stuff. Because when it's time for you to pick somebody up, Brandon, there ain't shit on the waiver wire. I mean,
Nope.
You're going to have to go, you know what? I see that for whatever reason, Terry Bradshaw is still active for the Steelers. I'm going to have to just pick him up just to pick him up. I mean, it's stuff like that where you've got to really concentrate and think, okay, this guy's going to be called up from the practice squad. In reality, maybe I need to get him in case my guy doesn't work out or something like that. So the long GM process leagues are the ones that I live for. Don't get me wrong, I love the regular leagues, but these ones that are years and years and years, and they have all these roster spots, because there you are thinking like that. But not only that, the ones where the value leagues where you got to buy players.
Yeah.
That is I hate those leagues. I really hate those leagues.
Okay, so let's go ahead and again give a quick shout out, Brandon, to our sponsors here.
I'm telling you, brother, all this fantasy talk is making me tired, Joe. So I need to wake me up a little bit, and that's going to be at Mudslingers drive-through coffee shop there in San Antonio, man. Your favorite local drive-through coffee shop in San Antonio. Again, from those mini donuts. I've been in Boken season for 27 years. I'm not looking to stop. Let's get those mini donuts in there for sure. You got the cinnamon bun avalanche, caramel macchiatos. Rudy, are you a coffee guy? What's your go-to coffee, sir?
I'm a standard coffee guy, black with now I use Splenda because I was a big boy and I'm still a big boy, but I got to use the Splenda now. I can't use real sugar. But I like the macchiatos. I've had macchiatos before, and we're talking Mudslingers, dude. The alien at Mudslingers, that's gotten me going. And my doctor would, kick me in my butt for saying this. I'm glad he doesn't listen to this, but the alien has gotten me going a million times on Mudslingers.
And you got to go with the alien, man. Listen, big ups to Mudslingers, the best in coffee here in San Antonio. Go check them out. Go check them out on Twitter as well as all social media networks, and go grab yourself a coffee today. Bear County Social Apparel is also one of our incredible sponsors here at the Fantasy Gods. Everything from UTSA Athletics to the San Antonio Spurs to the Brahmas and possibly the Fantasy Gods, Bear County. We appreciate you guys as a sponsor, man. You guys are awesome, great people. I buy all of my Spurs products through there. And if you buy a Bear County Social Apparel t-shirt, a cup, a magnet, whatever it is, know that you're going to be getting looks from people in San Antonio because they're going to be like, damn, where'd you get that? And you tell them Bear County Social Apparel, that's the #1 spot. Mad Pecker Brewing Company, our title sponsor, is there. Rudy, give me a little bit of insight into you, man. I know you said you dropped a lot of weight. Are we still a drinker, Rudy? What are we drinking these days, buddy?
Yeah, what I gave up in the fatty foods and the greasy foods and everything, I made up for it in the drinking side. So I'm still, actually last weekend I was in Houston, and let's just say I kept the lights on for a couple of bars in Houston for the month. So definitely Matt Peckers. Definitely if you need the rent paid or something, give me a call. I can probably make that happen.
Man, you haven't seen a drunk Rudy. Drunk Rudy is a fun Rudy, man.
No. See, that was the Rated R podcast.
No, drunk Rudy's a fun Rudy. Don't let him fool you, Brandon.
Next week, if we bring him on, Joe, I'm gonna need some of those Rudy Campos stories, if you don't mind, sir.
Bro, you ain't ready for that stuff, man. I mean, that show was off the wall, bro. You're not ready, man.
I was told if I want to make it in radio, I had to clean it up, not just big times, but I had to just really just be dunked into the holy water at church and everything to make it happen. So that's how bad it was.
That's right. I'll tell you what, our boys over at Matt Pecker, man, they got IPAs up to 8%, Rudy. So we might be seeing it happen pretty quickly.
Hey, man, that pecan porter, man, that's my favorite over at Matt Pecker, dude.
That Gulf Coastin IPA, little Americana, chef's kiss, perfect stuff over there. But thank you, man, Rudy. I appreciate jumping on real quick before we go, though, brother. I want to know.
Yeah.
Who are you taking in that first round? And is there any surprises that you've been seeing going? I know we have Justin Jefferson, the McCaffreys. Is Bijan a first rounder still for you, Rudy? Is he a solidified first round pick?
If you're personally, no, I'm not touching Bijan in the first round at all. I would probably grab him in the second if I'm drafting late in the second round. So basically, if I have the first, second, third pick coming back around, if Bijan's there, I would definitely take him there, but I won't mess with him when it comes to the first round. Honestly, man, if it's me, depending on where I pick, if I'm drafting early, it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp. Those are my top 4 going into any draft right now. If I'm looking at the bottom part, middle of the pack is Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, I believe, because Deshaun's going to come back with a vengeance. He's going to be good in Cleveland. They got a lot of weapons in Cleveland still. If you grab, I would go with Nick Chubb, but what I would do is I would definitely handcuff Nick Chubb with Jerome Ford because I think that's going to be beneficial. You saw the Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb type of duo, so I think Jerome Ford is going to fit right in next to Nick Chubb. Outside of that, man, late first round, if I have a surprise person, A.J. Brown has been on my list for a while as that first round guy who doesn't get love. You saw what Jalen Hurts can do. He's got Devontae Smith right next to him. I think A.J. Brown is going to continue to be that guy for Philadelphia. He's going to put up some really good numbers this year. I really like A.J. Brown. And one guy to keep an eye on is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a second rounder.
Yesterday, baby. Just drafted him yesterday.
He's a second rounder, and I'm talking early second rounder for me right now. And those are the 2 guys that I see. The one guy, like I said, A.J. Brown going in the first. If I'm in the late first round, I'm taking A.J. Brown probably at that 9, 10, 11, 12 spot if need be. That's the reason why I'm keeping him in that league as well with you. But there's a lot of guys falling, a lot of guys rising. Patrick Mahomes in the first round, it's crazy. But again, it depends on scoring. If there's 6 points for a touchdown pass, I am grabbing Mahomes and I'm, kidnapping him basically, and I'm putting him on my team.
I love it, man. I love it. I know. Is there anybody? I'll tell you mine. Is there anybody that you would be hanging a jersey on in the rafters of the Rudy Campos fantasy leagues of past that have won you championships that maybe have always ended up on your leagues or you won a few championships with them? For me, man, Calvin Johnson Megatron brought me my first 2 championships as a young boy, and I think he deserves his place. Another one that I think was a season-long winner that I had. This is a blast from the past. Ready for this, Rudy?
Yeah.
Peyton Hillis is here with the Browns. The one crazy, the Cinderella story of Peyton Hillis ended up on the Madden cover. I mean, just nuts, but he won me a championship too. Anybody that you remember having a lot on your fantasy rosters of championships?
It was one season, but I'm gonna drop his name in a minute because if you remember him, then you are definitely a fantasy guru. That is for sure. One guy, Megatron. Megatron won me so many, titles back then. Julio Jones, prime Julio Jones was able to get me. I mean, you saw a few games where it was 200 plus yards receiving. The receptions were there. LaDainian Tomlinson won me some leagues. Antonio Gates actually helped me a lot back in the day.
Hell yeah.
But there's 2 guys that I remember, and I'll never forget them because when I drafted them late, and I only knew it because my buddy was like, who the hell are these guys? I'm like, you'll see. Back in the day, you always drafted Denver running backs all the time. So I went in one year and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take him. Why? Because it's Shanahan. They run the damn ball. So shout out to Ruben Drones back in the day. He was a fantasy relevant guy for a year. He won me a title that year, only to get hurt and to get replaced by my next Denver running back who I took. That is Quentin Griffin. They both have jerseys on my wall. I have titles because of those 2 guys back-to-back years. And after that, they went into fantasy exile. They went into, fantasy Valhalla because you never heard from them again. But those 2 guys, give a massive shout out to them. They were my workhorses from back in the day from the Denver Broncos. So shout out Quentin Griffin and Ruben Drones. Now, if you remember that, Brandon, then you've been playing fantasy longer than I have. I'm sure.
I'm telling you, man, that you're throwing it way, way, way back. Another one that I love, too, man, and he doesn't get much love. And we were talking about it actually here. My buddy had a pool party yesterday, and we were talking about Santana Moss. Man, I had Santana Moss in a lot of leagues too, and he was one of those sneaky wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s that would just blow up for you, stuff like that. There's a lot of them, man. If you had any of the Cowboys in those Tony Romo days, those are pretty nice days.
Patrick Creighton. I remember a guy was like, I'm drafting Patrick Creighton. Did you see that 56-yard touchdown he had in preseason? I go, bro, preseason. He's not going to do nothing. No, he's the next Hines Ward. Okay, I'm done with this league.
That's when we need the no mames drop, dude.
Yeah, no mames. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Brandon. I know what you're saying. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I know
hey, man, y'all ain't giving no love to CD Lamb, dude?
Who? I've never drafted him. And I will never draft him because, that's a football show. We're not going to get into that. We're not going to say why CD's not relevant.
Rudy has a personal vendetta against CD Lamb.
I don't have personal vendetta. Oh, good.
Dude, my boy Rudy over here is just pissing off UT fans, Falcons fans, Cowboys fans. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, he's gonna say Rudy. He's gonna shit on Micah Parsons too. Watch.
Don't ever disrespect him.
No, man. I mean, look, there's a reason why I disrespect people in fantasy football, because if they can't help me win this thing right here, then you know what? You got no time on my team. It's all about these babies right here. That's all about.
Speaking of which, man, what are y'all gonna do for the loser of the league, dude? You're gonna make them prance around in a My Little Pony onesie, doing something out in the corner.
We got to think about something that definitely is going to be emotionally damaging to the loser of this league. There has to be some emotional damage that some therapist is going to hear about because Rudy and I's ideas. So.
I'm telling you, man, My Little Pony onesie, dude. You have him on the corner right there. Going ahead and helping one of the sponsors out, like Matt Pecker out there on the corner on Culebra and Tezel. Yeah. Just going ahead and showing flipping the sign and saying, "Hey, man, come into the Mad Pecker."
See, this is where I would insert that. Yeah, this is where I would insert that old, adage of what I used to do on podcasts. But
bro, I think remember what you were trying to do going down? Was it Market Square one time with the Daisy Dukes, bro? No.
Yeah, luckily I didn't lose that bet because that would have been horrible if I would have lost that bet in fantasy football. But no, Brandon. I mean, the fantasy season's here, bro. It's here.
Yes, it is.
It's ready. Your drafts are going on. I've got drafts this week and then all the way up until Labor Day weekend. I mean, I think that this season is going to be a great season for fantasy football. It's just getting started. So, I mean, what do you feel about this season coming up, man? We got a couple of minutes here.
Man, dude, I'm excited about the season. I'm excited for what ifs this year, right? The players you're taking shots on, the Rashad Whites of the world, the papers that we don't know if they're going to be absolute playmakers, if they're going to be just flex plays. I will say I have high hopes for my man Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is going to be an incredible receiver this year. But overall, this fantasy year we're finally getting back to normal fantasy. You know what I mean? I feel like in the past 2-3 years, it's been very COVID related. You had people going on the IR because they had COVID. Yeah. People that were missing games. A lot of injury ridden seasons. We're finally seeing a resurgence, I think, in health. Hopefully, you have Calvin Ridley back after a few years. My favorite degenerate gambler, Calvin Ridley. You have a lot of players that we've seen from the past kind of coming back into play. Nick Chubb is getting drafted in the first round again. You're seeing, of course, McCaffrey. Let's see what he does with San Francisco. You have quarterback movement all over the place with Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Desmond Ridder over at the Falcons. Yeah. I mean, all of those quarterback movements are going to shape what you're doing in your draft and are going to shape average draft projection, shape the end results of where some of these players are going. And so I think this is going to be one of the most competitive years in fantasy football that I can remember to date.
Yeah, and one guy I didn't mention, and I'm not going to give my other guy because I've been saving him for here, and I have him written down. I was like, I'm not going to mention him because I kind of need this guy here. But a guy that's going undrafted, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to him, is Michael Thomas. For good reason, he's going undrafted. But if you can get him in free agency, or if you have the last pick in the draft and you just want a guy, grab Michael Thomas. Now, where he's going to devalue himself as a reception guy like in the past, he's going to increase that value. Big body, big person. You're talking about a goal line guy. So when he's got that one-on-one there, Michael Thomas is a little bit, more intriguing for players with Derek Carr in New Orleans.
I like it. I think it makes sense. Derek Carr had one of the highest ADOTs in the league, if not the highest, with Devontae Adams throwing downfield. That's Michael Thomas's bread and butter, man. Michael Thomas likes to get those downfield targets, but so does Chris Olave. So exactly. My thing is this it's going to be one of those changing of the guilds where Michael Thomas is passing the torch to Chris Olave, or are we going to be able to see two top 20 wide receivers in both of them? Because Michael Thomas definitely has the natural born ability. You're talking about that. You're talking about a guy that was going #1 just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so Michael Thomas definitely has ability. Another guy I like a lot, Rudy. You tell me if I'm wrong before we get out of here. Just for our Cowboys fans on the chat on the stream, Michael Gallup's going undrafted too. Michael Gallup could be a sneaky one to maybe pick up and stash for a few weeks.
Hey, there you go.
Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
He's
Stash
right.
him.
He's right. You draft and stash. Why? Because Michael Gallup is really the only deep threat right now.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is not going to be a deep threat like he used to be. I mean, he's going to get down the field every now and then, but he's going to be more of Julian Edelman type player for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So Michael Gallup is your deep threat. I definitely go all in with Michael Gallup for sure.
Yeah, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, if you're looking for a rookie or a second-year player breakout possibly. But lots to talk about, lots to get into, man. It's going to be an incredible fantasy football season. Thank you, Rudy, for joining in, brother. I'm excited to have you on the show. Hopefully we can keep doing this thing. Again, a big shout out to Joe Garcia, the best producer in the business. I am Brandon Medina. This is the Fantasy Gods. We appreciate you hanging out with us, talking fantasy. Good luck on your drafts. Have a wonderful Sunday. We'll see you next time.